Yo, what's good with y'all? Back with another video. Today, showing you guys how to make some dark ambient melodies for Southside or Future. Just some samples that are real dark, real ambient. So let's show you the video. For this sample, I used 2 analog labs, and the 3 other sounds come from my new Onyx kit. Anyways, before we break it down, here's the sample. But the first layer I laid down was from Analog Lab, and I went into the Molecular Bank by HZE, and I selected the Enhanced preset. And as you can hear, it's a real nice, soft kind of pad synth. You want to choose a lot of soft, heavy on the reverb type of sounds, nothing really harsh. So I started with this melody. I always start with my root notes. First started with C sharp, and all I did is I copied it for the second half and brought it down 4. Always messing with your bass notes can really give some emotion to your sample, just how I did here, bringing it down 4 in the second half. And then after that, I just took my C sharp and I brought it up 7. And I landed on the G sharp. I don't know anything about music theory, but just simple tricks like that become muscle memory and always work. And the last thing I did is I took the C sharp up an octave, and then I had my first chord. And the next thing I did is I moved the G sharp over to mess with the placement on the notes, kind of give it more rhythm. And then I also added this F sharp down here. Very, very simple. All I did is I took the F sharp up an octave. And then this is the basic pattern that I have down here. All I did at the end was I added these top notes up here, which is very easy to add because all I did is I copied the same notes from down here. Once you lay down your first couple notes in your first melody, it's pretty easy. All you have to do is intervals, I think is what it's called, where you're using the same notes just up an octave or down an octave. And that's literally all I did. These notes up here are all from the same notes down here. And then I just copied this pattern over, except this section right here that I highlighted, I just changed. And I just wanted to make it sound a lot more darker, so I used notes that were right next to each other. Lastly, I just did Alt R, turn them as a velocities, and I also strummed it a little bit by just doing Alt S. The effects are pretty simple. All I did is I added a halftime on here since it was kind of fast. Then just added this ambience reverb, a regular reverb, and then an EQ, cutting out the lows and the low mids and cutting out the highs, so it's a lot more filtered out, kind of, you know, vintage type of feeling. And then lastly, a sound shifter, pitched it up an octave since I did use the halftime to bring it down an octave. Next thing I did is very simple. I just took the same notes and I copied it into another instance of an Analog Lab. And inside of the same bank, I just used the preset called Modular Glitch. So when I came to the effects, I pitched it up an octave, kind of similar effects to the other one. I just pitched it up an octave. Then I added a halftime to slow it down, and then I used a ambience reverb, same thing, just turn the mix knob down, and then a flanger to give it a more wide stereo effect. Then lastly is EQ, filtering it out since I wanted to make it sound more ambient, more dark. And then the next 3 sounds is kind of some counter melodies. First one I added is the Exo Zombies bell instead of the bells and mallets from my new Onyx multi-kit. Like I said, it'll be the first link in the description down below. All I do to all my one-shots is I go into the envelope and I turn everything down. I turn the sustain all the way up, and I just leave the release like this a little bit. Now, since this MIDI and the melody itself was very, very simple, I added Portal on here, and I went to this bank right here, the grain synthesis, and I used the sound waves preset. This was to kind of spice up the melody and make it sound a lot more unique. Then again, a very simple reverb, a very simple pancake, just moving it 1 bar, so it's kind of quick. And lastly, just an EQ filtering out the sound. Next, I use the Utopia synth. Now for this counter melody, it's almost the same thing as the original counter melodies. You guys see. And then the effects are even more simple, just an ambience reverb and then a delay 3. And that's basically it. The last sound I added is this bass. This is my favorite bass out of the whole kit. I've used this like way too much. For the bass, I don't want the notes to overlap, so for this one I'll turn everything down except the hold. So this makes it when you let go of the note, it completely stops. Now I love adding synth basses and just basses in general to my samples because I feel like it's what really gives it a lot of emotion. And the way I create this is very simple. I just followed the bass notes from the original melody, but what really gave it that emotion is adding these little higher notes right here. I just call them transition notes because it's transitioning into the next note. But it was very, very simple, just 5 melodies. Simple samples are always the ones to get placed, the ones you least expect. And then lastly, for the master, I just put an EQ. I lowered some of the bass / low mids, and I just raised the highs a little bit. Sound shifter, pitching up 1 since I felt like the whole sample was a little muddy, so I raised it up a little bit. And then just a soft clipper that I always have on just to make the sample a lot louder. But after all that, I exported it, and then this is the final sample. But man, that's pretty much it. Hope you guys enjoyed and learned something new. Make sure you guys go cop that Onyx multi-kit. You guys have all been giving amazing feedback. I appreciate all of y'all for showing the love. I'm of course be dropping more very, very soon. Appreciate y'all so much. But other than that, man, if you guys enjoyed, make sure you guys leave a like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell so you don't miss any more videos. And I'll see y'all in the next video.